Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the movie Hangout. Captain Marvel makes a little bit of money and the Rotten Tomatoes audience score dips back down. That's the title of this video. Okay, so right now, despite everything that we're reading about Captain Marvel being decent or whatever or bad, I am shocked here of this about this Rotten Tomatoes critics approved. I mean, these people are pretty much paid off critics here, they're giving it a 79%. Now, realistically, and there's 422 reviews, realistically, I would have thought that this would have been up around an 83, 84, at least a B. Right now, it's at a C plus. That is surprising to me. The audience score, now that they're actually allowed to have people post again, who knows how many of these that they've deleted over this past week, but it's at a 62. A 62. What is that? That's like, I think that's a D minus, F plus, if you want to give it that. But a 62% is not very good. And that is not anticipation anymore. That is whether or not the audience liked it. So that's nothing to be proud of. And then right here, the critic reviews for Captain Marvel, you're seeing a lot more rottens than were there before. And let me go down here in the critics. I mean the audience here. View all. And yeah, there's a lot of 2.5s, there's a lot of halves, ones, boring. I don't know. I don't even know what that is, but it's a half. So I think it's funny. And disappointing, I can read that. And yeah, so as far as critics go, it's very mediocre. So let's go over to the moolah, the money, the De Niro, the big cheese. Let's see here. So I like to go to Box Office Mojo. They give pretty good, accurate numbers when it comes to the box office. And then something else they do, which I love, is you can actually compare comparable movies to see how it did against, other action superhero films. So right here, we got Rogue One, The Dark Knight, Hunger Games Catching Fire, and then The Hunger Games, the first one, and then Captain Marvel. So we got 5 movies. We got 4 out of 5 have female leads. So female, strong, independent women. So we can kind of get a good feel for how those did. So the numbers that you want to look at this point, since Captain Marvel is not finished its box office run, you don't want to look at like the total gross. You just want to look at number one, the budget. So that's how much money they paid to actually make the product. Anytime a company makes a product, you want to know how much did we spend to make the product. That way you can figure out how much profit you actually make. Here you got Rogue One, 200 million, Dark Knight, 185, Catching Fire, 130, Hunger Games, 78, and nothing. No answer. So Captain Marvel has been they've been keeping their cards close to their chest when it comes to how much money they spent on making this thing. So I had to do a little bit of digging. Who knows how accurate this is, but on Wikipedia, they claim anywhere between 152 to 175 million. Now, I personally don't believe that. I think that Marvel probably spent about $200 million making this. And the reason why is the special effects. The special effects cost a ton of money. Also, there are a lot of name actors in this. And Marvel and Disney do not want to screw up this film because this movie is right before Avengers Endgame. And so they're not going to want to screw it up. And plus, Captain Marvel ties in a lot of storylines. So, in my opinion, I think this is probably around a $200 million. Now, if you know anything about the movie business and movie marketing, the studios spend about the same amount of money that they spend to make the movie to promote the movie. So, in other words, if a movie costs $100 million to make, they spend about $100 million in advertising. If it's $200 million to make, they spend $200 million in advertising. I know that sounds crazy, but that's pretty much industry standard. What does that money go towards? It goes towards Facebook ads. It goes towards billboards, magazines, Super Bowl ads, if they do those. Sporting game, they'll do like McDonald's, Burger King ads. everywhere. I mean, bus stop ads. I mean, if you just drive around Southern California, Captain Marvel's everywhere. If you even say Captain Marvel to somebody in your home and you go on Facebook, magically Captain Marvel ads will pop up there, and everybody knows what I'm talking about because they're listening to you. So that's where the money goes. So okay, let's say they're spending 200 million to make it. Let's spend another 200 million dollars getting the word out. So that's 400 million dollars. So right there, they have to make at least 400 million dollars to break even. So really, the movie's not going to be a success unless they make about 750 million to $1 billion. So right now, let's look at, okay, so number of theaters. So Rogue One was in a little over 4,100. Dark Knight, 4,366. And then both of the Hunger Games were in a little over 4,100. So the Avengers, or Captain Marvel, has gotten a pretty wide release. It's got more theaters than a Star Wars movie, which is pretty surprising. So let's look now at the average dollars per theater. So in every showing, or I'm sorry, every theater, this is how much they're making per one. So if you look at the number here, what you'll see is Captain Marvel is actually the least. And the reason why it's the least is because what Disney did was they decided to pretty much just like shotgun blast this movie all over the place. So when you take the dollar amount, the total amount, and divide it by the number of screens, that's the number you get. So Disney's actually making less money per screen than they did with Rogue One or even The Dark Knight, even though The Dark Knight came out 11 years ago. And so that's pretty big. So let's look at the second weekend drop. So basically what this is gauging is compared to opening weekend, how many people actually went to the movie. There could be a couple reasons why this would go down or go up. It would go down if the people that went opening night told all their friends, did movie reviews, wrote on social media that, hey, this movie is not that great. So if the movie percent goes down like a ton, then that's going to mean that there overall was a lot of negative buzz. If it doesn't go down too much, then that shows that it's a decent movie and actually word of mouth is going to pay off for this film. So Rogue One was an okay film. It was not by any stretch of the imagination an amazing Star Wars movie. So that was down about 58.7%. And then you had The Dark Knight, which was a fantastic film. That was down only 52.5%. And then you had The Hunger Games, The Catching Fire, 53.1, and then the first one, 61.6. And then Captain Marvel, 54.8. So it actually the second weekend, it actually didn't do as bad as the first Hunger Games or Rogue One, but it didn't do as well as Catching Fire or The Dark Knight. And then if you look at the widest release, here we're at 4157 and then 4300 right there. So that's pretty much what's going on with Captain Marvel. This more than likely will hit $1 billion, which is not surprising because everywhere around the world is being pretty much indoctrinated with Captain Marvel propaganda right now. What I'm really interested in, and I'm going to do several videos on, is how well the merchandise sells, because The Last Jedi, Star Wars Last Jedi, they were literally marking down all the action figures to $1. So it went down from like $20 to $1 in Toys R Us, and also all the other toy stores. So I'll be interested to see how the action figure actually sells, because kids are going to be interested in it, and if they're not interested in it, then they're not going to want the toy. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video on Captain Marvel's earnings here after the second weekend, and I'm going to be making a lot more videos about this and also the upcoming Marvel movies. And as always, if you want to get future rants, reviews, or original content, click subscribe. Later.